episode of MCHUZI. We are approaching the end of the financial year, or for other people, this is the mid-year. For those who count the calendar year, 1st January to 31st December. We're approaching 15th of the month. There are things that happen at that time. So we're here to talk about all those obligations that are concerned with these periods. My name is Josephine Kabiesisa, and I'll be hosting you today. I will allow our guest today to also introduce herself.
Good morning, our viewers. Hafsa Seguya is my name. And nice having you this morning and giving you a reminder on what you need to do before we could close the financial year so that your compliance is at its best. Thank you.
All right. And I think we'll dive straight in. We apologize for the delay, but we're going to make good use of the time we have right now. So we'll dive straight into this. What are some of these obligations? If you could list them out for us.
Thank you very much. Ideally, when we register this client for tax purposes, that means we've assigned a TIN to every client. This registration comes with obligations, it comes with rights. But at this particular time, when we are ending the year, we are basically looking at obligations. Yes, you registered, very well so. I should imagine you've been keeping proper business records. But there's an obligation for you to paint that picture of what your business has been doing, what has happened your end in form of a return. And this return is a standard template that we do offer you. So your work is to just go on our portal and on www.ura.go.ug. Kindly pick the template of the tax type you're filing for. If we are looking about, when I talk about the monthly ones, ideally every tax type has its own template. And do paint that picture. Tell us what has happened that end. If there are sales, how much are they? If there are purchases, if there are administrative expenses, if there are salaries you've paid out, if it's excise duty that you've collected on your products or services, kindly do so in that monthly return so that at the end of the day we can have the right picture of what to expect if there is a payment or what not to expect as a tax body.
All right. Thank you for that. So should we start with 15th?
Ideally, we can start with the monthly tax types that have an obligation for you to paint this picture by the 15th, because today is 13th, it's budget day, but 2 days after will be a deadline for the monthly tax types. And ideally, when we are in June, we are basically looking at the month of May for VAT, for pay as you earn, for withholding tax, for excise duty. Those are the monthly tax types. And maybe game pooling and betting tax. Ideally, you file on weekly basis and make payment on a weekly basis, but you still have the obligation on a monthly basis to summarize the 4 weeks and give us a full disclosure of that given month. So at the end of the day, those are the tax types we are trying to address and trying to remind you, because when this return comes in late, it may pick a penalty of you submitting late, irrespective of what is in the return, whether it's a new return, but has it come in after the due date, it may pick a penalty, which we wouldn't want. That is why we keep coming to remind you as a stakeholders to see that you can do what you are meant to do in the right time. And if there are payments that are resulting from a particular return, maybe you need to address them before the 15-day elapses, because for the monthly tax types, your filing due date is equally the payment date. Because when we tell you buy, we don't expect you to be filing on the 15th, but we give you from the 1st to the 15th. So in between that time, you could file on the 1st and maybe make payment on the 2nd. But ensure that by the 15th, both activities have happened. The return has been filed and sent, and the payment has been made.
Okay, what is required for someone to file the returns?
Ideally, the first thing is you must have a TIN. We must have registered you for tax purposes and clearly indicated on your registration profile or certificate which tax types we have registered you for, because you can't file for a tax type that you're not registered for. For example, VAT, if you're not registered for VAT, then you don't have the obligation to file. So that is how it happens. Then once everything is put right and you're good to go, you need to have access to the internet, and you need to have a machine, say a laptop or an iPad. The simplest way of how you can access your account, and you need to have a TIN and your password. That's your secret password that can help you open your account. Then for things like VAT, we offer a pre-filled return. You don't need to do much. You only need to come and view, and you can't view when the month is moving. You can only view these pages when the month has elapsed, because at that time we have stopped populating for that given month. So once you view the different pages and you're comfortable, everything is clear to you, you can now send that particular return to URA before the 15th. And when it comes to pay as you earn, ensure that you have the TINs of the respective people you employ. Be them support staff, be them technical staff, be them group employees, you need to have their TINs, because the template will not accept validating and probably sending it to URA when you don't have a TIN against each of the people you employ. And same applies to withholding. Ensure that whoever supplied you, you have their TIN, because there is no way you're going to withhold from that person and declare them when there is no TIN, because once you declare them when there is no TIN, then where will we assign the credit? The credit will go on the suspense account. At the end of the day, the client is not seeing the credit in their ledger, because you didn't use a TIN when you were actually giving us this return. So TIN is a unique identifier, and it is a must to everybody who has income, and we issue the TIN for free. So ensure that you get the TIN so that you can make life easy for that person who is deducting from you, that person who is paying you a salary, so that you can they can be able to represent all those transactions and do a full declaration in these respective monthly returns.
Okay, thank you for that. So I think that covers the 15th.
Exactly, that covers 15th.
Moving on to half year.
Half year. So half year is basically income tax, because normally when we register you initially at the first time, the tax type we issue you by default is income tax, because we are cognizant of the fact that you have a plan to source income, and whatever income you'll source, in the event that it exceeds 10 million, it is taxable, unless it is defined as exempt in the exempt schedule, say, of VAT. It is exempt in income tax, it is section 21. But unlike any of those, if it is not mentioned there, it is taxable. What am I saying? So let me imagine we registered you and gave you a TIN. And URA operates a financial year from 1st July to 30th of June. So we have about 2 weeks to end the financial year. But did you file your return when it was due? Here I'm talking about the provisional return. Because as the year starts from 1st July, if you're trading as an individual, we give you 3 months into the year at least to file that provisional return. A provisional return is a mimic of what you expect to get or what you expect to do. And equally, if you're a non-individual, we give you up to 31st December, half year, to ensure that you filed your return. However, after filing the provisional, It is not final, that you cannot adjust. In case anything happens in your business, you've realized more sales and all that, feel free to amend this provisional return. But ensure that by the 30th day on midnight, the position we have in the system for that provisional return is what we are taking. So you can amend this provisional as many times as you want, but ensure that by the 30th of June midnight, the position we have is the position you want us to take. So that cuts across an individual and even a non-individual. Because as the year is moving, you can't file a final because the year hasn't yet ended. And secondly, we haven't yet opened that window. That window is closed because the system reads the calendar and knows that we haven't ended the financial year. So when we open it now, just imagine when you're filing your final return, yet you're still transacting in the same year. It will bring a confusion. That is why we want to address this provisional up to the 30th of June. So when the year ends, we give 6 months into the following year. That is to an individual and even a non-individual. So within 1st July and 31st December, you are free to send in your final return for your particular business. When I talk about a final return, these are the actual figures or the actual transactions of what transpired in your business. That's why we call it final, because we are putting that year to an end. We are trying to see how to close it. That is why it takes the word final return. So that is what we expect one to do after 30th of June. But now we are eagerly waiting for your monthly returns, as we talked about them. We are waiting for the provisional return for those who haven't filed, and those who have filed and feel they need to amend. It's well, kindly do amend, but ensure that the amounts are payable by 30th of June. Don't wait for 30th of June to make a payment. Kindly make a payment now before 30th of June so that you avoid whatever traffic will be on the system. Because we have different payment modes. You don't even need to wait for the bank. You can use a traditional payment that is over the counter, where you go with your slip and maybe line up in the bank. You can use Payway. It can also help you make that return. We can use the USSD code, that is *285#, and it links you to your mobile money account, say Airtel Money, MTN Mobile Money. When you have the money there, it will help you remove the money from your account, then credit the URA account. And we can also use the checks in case you need to give your a check, ensure that the monies are there. And you can also use an EFT if the monies are on your account and you feel you just need to transfer them to the URA account, that is well. But mark you, when you're using an EFT, ensure that if you're filing, say, a monthly return that has a deadline of 15th and payment by the 15th, kindly do not initiate EFT on the 15th because it needs about 2 to 3 days to reconcile. That means you will have filed, but your payment will have come late. And once it comes late, it will start picking interest. So it is better, if you opt for that, kindly use the RTGS because it tells you that this amount will settle in real time. That's why they call it real-time gross settlement. So it will reflect at the time you're triggering that instruction to the bank. It will reflect in real time. So since we have a number of payment platforms, kindly use what makes you comfortable, but it does not create an outstanding for you in terms of interest, so that you can be good at your compliance as we are ending the year and beginning another financial year.
There have been challenges that some of the people face in the past, so probably they'll have locked passwords or other different challenges. How can they be supported? How can taxpayers be supported?
Ideally, when in the event that you're filing, unlike for a presumptive return, you do not need a password and a TIN. You're not entering into any account because it's like generating a payment slip. Then it will help you trigger a return for small businesses. Then In a few minutes you'll have completed. But for these others that will require you having a password that will help you open your account, once you cannot, or you've forgotten the password, you can, one, reset it. But if you don't have the login credential, if you don't have the password for your email, because ideally when you're resetting, the system will return the details on your email. Kindly, it will even require you to maybe even change the email. If it's your personal TIN, then that's okay. But when we are making an amendment for email, we'll inconvenience you a bit, because we require you to come to URA physically, because we need to see who is this who is changing the email of this individual, because the world is a little crafty. We do not want to change the email, yet somebody else is at the back trying to imitate what you would have done. So we do not want to take chances. That is why we will inconvenience you and request you to go to the nearest URA office for identification. And once you've identified yourself with a national ID or any other valid ID, then you give us the new email. Then we can initiate that amendment and ensure that everything is well. But in the event that this is happening, kindly don't do it on the 28th, because there is a process of amendment, then there is a process of filing a return. Kindly, let's check ourselves now, so that in the event that you need to put in this amendment, at least give it about 2 or 3 days for it to be done, because it has stages, it has acknowledgement, it has a detailed document entry, data entry, it has a verification up to approval. All these are steps that need to be probably respected, so that everything can go on well. So we need to start the process now in case we have such a dilemma, so that we do the amendments, then ensure that the emails that we have, we can access them, so that we can keep resetting our passwords from time to time.
Okay. Actually, the other thing, when you speak about the dates, if I'm not mistaken, 30th June is a Sunday.
Yes. So
there are those challenges that come with the weekend, either between the bank that you need. For URA, I know we can extend, there's help. But for the banks,
ideally, these days what we do as URA, as we plan to extend the dates, it does not make sense when we extend the dates alone when we haven't contacted other agencies like the bank. We normally contact them to help us stay open for longer hours, even over the weekend, so that those who feel they need to come and do physical payment, or they need to rectify some issues before the payment can be honored, then definitely they need to enter into a banking hall. So we work hand in hand with them to see that everything is well. But the most important thing is, let us start now. Because when we start now, it creates at least some ease. You're not in panic when things are not working out right. Because normally, towards the end of the year, that deadline for filing, there is traffic on the system. And when there is traffic, still you're operating on the same system, you may find you may incur a delay of any other process that is not working out, maybe before you can even complete your filing. So starting now could be the best, so that we can address all those challenges that could come by, so that you can put your return in time, and we avoid the penalties for the late filings.
Okay. You spoke about amending tax returns. I don't know if I heard you right where you said they can amend as many times as possible.
Yes, for income tax.
For income tax.
You can amend as many times. Amending is, yes, when I tell you the due date for a provisional return, say is 31st December for an individual and 30th September for an individual. Yes, you have filed this provisional, but along the way, business is moving. We are in the year and doing business in any way. So that is why we tell you, feel free in case you need to amend. There are some extra transactions that have come in. There's some business that you have gotten, and therefore income may have been realized. Kindly adjust or amend to include whatever is there, so that at the end of the day, we do not have issues of understatement of a provisional return when we come to a final and we see there is a big variance in the income that you declared. Yes.
Okay. Is there any situation where someone may not be able to amend?
Situations where you're not able to amend, when the year elapses, then you can't amend a provision.
Okay.
Because the system will have closed that window. That means here we are waiting for a final return. You can no longer amend the provisional.
Okay.
Because the system has locked the provisional window. Yes.
What about if there's an assessment?
Yes, if there is an assessment, then you need to file an objection if you feel you're uncomfortable.
Okay.
Because the law is very clear in the Tax Procedures Code, Section 24, that clearly tells you if you're not satisfied with an assessment, you are free to lodge an objection to the Commissioner. Within 45 days from the time we sent you that assessment, we raised the assessment, so that we can look at the grounds on which you are not satisfied and see whether actually there is some bit of adjustment or we could address a particular issue. Because as you send in this objection, still URA gives you a maximum of 90 days for us to look at every document, request for additional information in case we need to, so that within the 90 days we'll have issued you an objection decision that tells you our position as URA.
Okay.
But still, that is not the end. If you feel uncomfortable with the decision, within 7 days from when you get the objection decision, we now have an intervention in between there, that's alternative dispute resolution, the ADR, where we constitute ourselves or we get independent persons to listen to you and see whether they have the same thinking or the same interpretation as the objection team did before they gave you the objection decision. Because at times it saves my client the burden of going to TAT, and whenever you go to TAT, that's a Tax Appeals Tribunal, the conditionality that you have to first fulfill is pay 30% of the amount before we can start the proceedings. And in most cases, what you're running away from is, I don't have the money because I actually didn't do it. Then when you have a condition of paying 30%, at times it ends up failing. That is why the ADR came in to see how we can intervene and maybe save some clients from going to TAT, because TAT is a court, but it's a tax court. And it may take quite some time before cases are concluded and all that. So let's get an easier way where we feel we can help this client moving forward. Yes.
Okay. So just before we close, I wanted for you to summarize what we are filing for 15th, or what we are doing for 15th, what we are doing for half year.
Thank you very much. The returns URA is expecting by the 15th. If you check on your registration status or certificate or TIN certificate, once you are registered for a tax type called value added tax, once you're registered for a tax type called pay as you earn, once you're registered for a tax type called withholding tax, once you're registered for a tax type called excise duty, and once you're into gaming, pooling and betting tax, those are the returns I expect by the 15th. For game, pooling and betting tax, the difference it has with the rest is the monthly return is just it's just a combination of the 4 weekly returns that probably you had already supplied. That is it. But for the others, these are the returns we expect, and the resultant payments are done. Because with game, pooling and betting, since you file weekly, we expect this money to be paid on a weekly basis. We cannot leave you with this money because these are games of chance. What if I leave you with the money and you plow it back and it gets lost there? So whatever has happened at the end of the week, we want you to pay it there and then, so you start a fresh week, because ideally this is, I would say, Zara. So Zara can bring anything, and I don't want my tax to get lost there. So for the other 4 tax types, if I designated you for withholding tax, kindly you have a duty to file that monthly return by the 15th. if I registered you for VAT because your income, your gross turnover exceeded 150 million, kindly know you have an obligation to file that return by the 15th day. If you have people you employ and you have the obligation to deduct from them, kindly you need to file that return by the 15th to show us what you have deducted from each person you employ, so that we can know how much pay as you earn is in there. And not forgetting the fact that as you file, ensure that you make payment. Because if you've deducted money from Hafsa, John, whoever, you have the money. There is no excuse of telling me you don't have it, because ideally you would have paid them full salary. But because they have an obligation to contribute to national development through taking their fair share of taxes, that is why the reason of deducting comes, because you have their salary, so we deduct at source. But what you shouldn't forget, that ensure that as you file, kindly make these payments by the 15th. Ensure that 15th midnight should find you when you've made these payments for the monthly tax types. When it comes to the provisionals, ensure that at least by the 30th of June maximum, before midnight, ensure that this payment has been made and it has reconciled. Because there is giving the bank a command to credit your AS account and it is not performed. So if it is not performed, that means payment hasn't been recognized. So if it comes in late, it may peak interest. So let us ensure that as we approach these filing dates, we put our books in order and we can file. For those filing under presumptive, kindly, it's as simple as anything. Kindly do so. File under presumptive, just go to our web portal, go to generator payment, domestic taxes, generator payment. It will take you through the prompts until where it will give you the tax head type, and you select income tax for small businesses. Yes.
Okay. So there's a question. I don't know if it's very related, but let me throw it at you. Someone is saying they're starting an events planning hustle where they'll outsource service providers. They don't really have like a registered business, and they're asking, do they need to pay taxes?
Ideally, everybody in Uganda needs to pay taxes. But the only difference is, one, how much do you source as income in a given year? If you cannot make 10 million in a given year, I don't expect taxes from you. But you still have the obligation to file and actually confirm that this year I sourced only 7 million, because that is proof. That is one. Two, if you're sourcing income that was clearly indicated that it is exempted income, then you do not need to pay taxes. For example, our colleagues in the UPDF, in the Uganda Police Force, in the prisons, whatever salary they get, let me be clear, salary is exempted from pay as you earn.
Okay.
But if this police officer comes up and buys a border, it has to pay advance income tax. Because that is not employment income, that is business income. You have come into the business league. Then your income, if it's not exempted, not mentioned anywhere in section 21 of the Income Tax Act, cap 340, you need to pay income tax.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I hope that answers the question. Now to the parting shots.
I would like to thank our viewers very much for having taken time to move with us for the minutes we've been online, and we've been educating you, we've been discussing tax related issues, and most so to thank you very much for making a choice to keep in business. It's not the easiest these days, but we do thank you very much, because once you close, I won't have anywhere to collect the taxes from. But thank you very much for contributing to national development. It is you and me that has to deliver this country to economic independence. And how can we do it? It is only taking your fair share of taxes, paying your taxes in time and filing in time, so that we can move this agenda together as we develop this country. Thank you very much and have a blessed day. Today is budget day. Kindly listen in when the budget is being read, so that as we start the year 2024-2025 on the 1st of July, at least you know which sectors are going to be affected. Is it your sector? Is it your tax type? So that you align yourself in line with the policy amendments that you will have had. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. I'll just close by saying that as URA, we are happy to serve you, we are happy to help you. Please reach out to us, especially now that we've heard from Hafsa telling us about what we need to do by 15th. By means preferably before 15th, or worst case scenario, before midnight of 15th. And the things that we need to do before 30th June, which is the end of the financial year. So now that we know all those things, in case you need more clarity, in case you need more help, in case you're having a challenge anywhere, as URA, we are here to help you. We're here to serve you, and we have different platforms through which we do this. And we have the toll-free lines, which are 0800 117 and 000. Then 0800 217 000. That's for the toll-free lines. You don't need any airtime for this. Then WhatsApp. We're also there with on 0772 14 0. That's 4 zeros. We are on all the social media platforms, the major ones at least. That's Facebook, LinkedIn, X, which is formerly Twitter, and TikTok as well. There's information there that you can benefit from. You can replay these sessions that we've had, something similar to this or any others that we've had before. You can also reach out there if you ask questions. There are people who pick these up and can respond to them. And then we have our countrywide offices. Of course, they're still open. Please walk in there and be able to be assisted. Then we also have an email, which is services@ura.go.ug. And there's something else called Touchpoint. If you go to any browser, like maybe Google Chrome, and you type URA Touchpoint, it will bring that platform. You can log in there and ask a question. You can upload any information that you would like us to see, maybe a document or something like that, and it will be tracked, and it is time sensitive. We actually put on pressure to respond to those things in time. So please take advantage of these platforms. Please seek help. We want to work with you. We want to work together. Twagala sente. So please make sure you make those payments. And please, let's pay taxes, our fair share of taxes, so that we can continue developing Uganda together. Thank you so much for being with us, and have a blessed day.